Brad Pitt has made over $300 million in his career, 2 Academy Awards, one of the most famous faces in human history. Women named their sons after him. Men wanted to be him. For 3 decades, he was Hollywood. But here's what nobody talks about. 4 of his 6 children have dropped his last name. His eldest son called him, and this is a direct quote, "a effing awful human being." His ex-wife accused him of choking one of their children on a private jet. The FBI investigated him. And the 8-year divorce that followed became the ugliest custody war Hollywood has ever seen. So here's the question. How does the most beloved actor in America end up estranged from almost every one of his own kids? 2 marriages, 2 divorces, 6 children, and a pattern that keeps repeating. This is that story. It starts with Jennifer Aniston. Brad Pitt married Jennifer Aniston on July 29, 2000. $1 million wedding in Malibu, 200 guests, fireworks, a 40-piece gospel choir. They were America's golden couple. The most beautiful man on the planet married to the most beloved woman on television. Friends was the biggest show in the world. Brad was coming off Fight Club and Ocean's 11. Every magazine cover, every red carpet. They looked untouchable. And for 5 years it worked. Or at least it looked like it did. Then came a movie called Mr. and Mrs. Smith. In 2003, Brad was cast opposite Angelina Jolie. She just divorced Billy Bob Thornton. Brad was still married to Jen. The tabloids started buzzing before the first scene was even shot. Jolie later confirmed it to Vogue. She said, "I think we found this strange friendship and partnership that kind of just suddenly happened." She said by the end of the shoot, they both realized it might mean something more than we'd earlier allowed ourselves to believe. Aniston later gave her side. She told Vanity Fair that Brad had started pulling away. Friends was ending. She needed him. "He just wasn't there for me," she said. "He didn't even show up for the final taping of the show." On January 7, 2005, Brad and Jen announced their separation. She filed for divorce in March. It was finalized in October. 1 month later, paparazzi photographed Brad and Angelina on vacation together in Kenya, with Angelina's adopted son, Maddox. America picked a side, and it wasn't Brad's. Team Aniston became a cultural movement. T-shirts, bumper stickers, magazine covers for years. Jennifer Aniston became the most sympathized with woman in America. And Brad Pitt became the man who left America's sweetheart for the dangerous one. When Jolie and Pitt's divorce was announced in 2016, a source told Us Weekly that Aniston said, "Yeah, that's karma for you." The source added that Aniston always felt Angelina was too complex for him. He's a pretty simple guy. But here's the thing. The public saw a love triangle. What they didn't see was that Brad Pitt was about to enter a relationship that would eventually cost him almost everything. Remember that, because it matters later. Brangelina wasn't just a celebrity couple. It was an empire. Brad adopted Angelina's children, Maddox and Zahara. They had biological daughter Shiloh in 2006. She was born in Namibia. The first photos of the baby sold to People magazine for $4.1 million. The money went to charity. They adopted Pax from Vietnam in 2007. Twins Knox and Vivian arrived in 2008. The first photos of the twins? $14 million. The highest price ever paid for celebrity baby photos. 6 kids, 3 adopted, 3 biological. A family built across 4 countries and 2 continents. They bought a $60 million estate in France, Chateau Miraval, a 35-bedroom property with its own vineyard, and a recording studio where Pink Floyd had once made an album. They launched a rosé wine brand that won gold at international competitions and became one of the most successful celebrity wines ever made. Brad's career hit its peak during this period. Moneyball earned him an Oscar nomination. The Big Short earned another. He won his first Oscar as a producer for 12 Years a Slave in 2014. That same August, he and Angelina got married at Chateau Miraval. The kids designed the wedding decorations. Jolie's dress had drawings from each child sewn into the veil. It felt like the ending of a movie. It wasn't. Because something was going wrong inside that family, and nobody outside it knew. On September 14, 2016, the Pitt-Jolie family boarded a private jet in France. They were flying back to Los Angeles. All 6 children were on board. The oldest, Maddox, was 15. The youngest, Knox and Vivian, were 8. What happened on that flight destroyed everything. According to a 53-page FBI report obtained by multiple news outlets, Jolie told investigators that about 90 minutes into the flight, Pitt approached her aggressively and told her to "Come here." He directed her to the back of the plane. They went into the bathroom. According to Jolie, Pitt grabbed her by the head and shook her, then grabbed her shoulders and shook her again, then pushed her into the bathroom wall. She alleged he was yelling, "You're effing up this family!" According to the FBI report, when they came out, one of the children asked, "Are you okay, Mommy?" Pitt allegedly replied, "No, Mommy's not okay. She's ruining this family. She's crazy." At that point, according to Jolie, one of the children, believed to be Maddox, got in Pitt's face and said, "It's not her, it's you, you prick." Jolie claimed Pitt then moved toward the child like he was going to attack. She said she intervened, grabbing Pitt around the neck in a chokehold. He allegedly threw himself backward, pushing her into the seats behind them. She said she suffered injuries to her back, elbow, and hand. Photos of injuries were included in the FBI report. Jolie also alleged Pitt poured beer on her and the blanket she was under while she sat comforting the children. She said he caused $25,000 in damage to the plane. Pitt was never charged. The FBI and the LA County Department of Children and Family Services both investigated and closed their cases. A source close to Pitt said at the time that he put his hands on him, yes, because the confrontation was spiraling out of control, but that it did not reach the level of physical abuse. 5 days after the flight, Angelina Jolie filed for divorce. Now stop and think about what that flight did. Not just to the marriage, to the children. 6 kids between the ages of 8 and 15 watched their parents physically fight on a sealed airplane 30,000 feet in the air. That's the moment this story splits in two. Brad Pitt, the movie star, keeps going. Brad Pitt, the father, starts losing his family. 1 kid at a time. The divorce lasted 8 years. 8. That's not a typo. Jolie filed in September 2016. She asked for sole physical custody of all 6 children. Pitt asked for joint custody. And so began the most expensive, most public, most bitter celebrity divorce in modern history. They fought over the kids, they fought over money, they fought over the wine, they fought over NDAs, they fought over who could testify. They fought over which judge could hear the case. In 2021, a retired private judge named John Outerkirk issued a tentative ruling granting Pitt more custody time. Jolie's team appealed. They argued Outerkirk had failed to disclose business relationships with Pitt's attorneys. A California appeals court agreed. They disqualified the judge. The custody case went back to square one. Years of litigation erased. Chateau Miraval became a legal battlefield on its own. In 2021, Jolie sold her 50% stake in the winery to Stoli Group, a spirits company with ties to Russian oligarch Yuri Shefler. Pitt sued her for $250 million. He said they had a verbal agreement that neither would sell without the other's approval. Jolie's lawyers countered that Pitt wouldn't let her sell unless she signed an NDA covering everything, including the plane incident. She refused. In April 2024, Jolie's legal team filed new claims. They alleged that Pitt's history of physical abuse started well before the 2016 plane trip. They said the flight marked the first time he turned his physical abuse on the children. Pitt's team denied all claims. A source close to Pitt called the allegations completely untrue and said Jolie was reimagining her description of an event that happened years ago. The divorce was finally settled on December 30th, 2024, 8 years and 3 months after Jolie first filed. When asked about it, Pitt told GQ in May 2025, "No, I don't think it was that major of a thing, just something coming to fruition, legally." 8 years, 6 children, an FBI investigation, and his response was, "Not that major of a thing." So where are the children now? This is where it gets hard. Maddox was the first to distance himself. He was 15 on that plane. He's the one who reportedly confronted his father. By the time he turned 18, he was living in South Korea, studying at Yonsei University. On Father's Day, when he was around 16, he allegedly posted a photo of Pitt accepting his Oscar for Best Supporting Actor and captioned it, "You have no consideration or empathy toward your 4 youngest children who tremble in fear when in your presence. Happy Father's Day, you effing awful human being." In 2025, Maddox was credited as assistant director on Angelina's new film, Couture. His credit read, Maddox Jolie, not Jolie Pitt, just Jolie. He dropped his father's name. He wasn't the first. In November 2023, Zahara introduced herself at a sorority event at Spelman College in Atlanta. She said, "My name is Zahara Marley Jolie." No Pitt. In May 2024, Shiloh turned 18. On her birthday, she filed legal paperwork to change her name to Shiloh Jolie. She hired her own lawyer, paid for it herself. Her attorney described it as a decision made by a young adult following painful events. A source told Us Weekly that Pitt was devastated. They said, "It was more than a name change. It was a symbol of a deeper estrangement that has been brewing for years." That same month, Vivian was listed in the playbill for the Broadway musical The Outsiders as Vivian Jolie. She was co-producing the show with her mother. So here's the count: Maddox, Zahara, Shiloh, Vivian. 4 of 6 children have publicly dropped Pitt's name. Pax and Knox haven't made public statements about their names yet, but Pax works on his mother's films. In 2024, Pax was involved in a serious e-bike accident that put him in the ICU for about a week. 6 months later, he had a second e-bike accident, crashing into the side of a car. His father was reportedly not involved in his care during either incident. Knox is reportedly very close with Jolie. Neither son has been publicly seen with Pitt in years. Brad Pitt hasn't been photographed with any of his children since 2020. A source told People that he knows he made mistakes, but that he's not ready to give up on them. Another source described him as desperate for one final shot to get together with the younger children. But the children have made their position clear, name by name, credit by credit, public statement by public statement. You following the pattern? Tom Cruise lost Suri, 1 daughter, 1 name change, and it shocked people. Brad Pitt lost 4 out of 6, and counting. So where does Brad Pitt stand right now? He's 61. He won his second Oscar in 2020 for Best Supporting Actor in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He accepted it on stage, made a self-deprecating joke about Tinder, and the audience loved him. He's starring in the F1 movie with Apple, which reportedly cost over $300 million to produce. He's dating Inez de Ramon, a jewelry executive 12 years younger. He showed up at the Venice Film Festival in 2024, looking like a man without a care in the world. He looks great. He's still Brad Pitt. The face still works. The career still works. The public still wants to love him. But here's what the career can't fix. His eldest son called him a effing awful human being on social media. 4 of his children dropped his name. His ex-wife's legal team has accused him of years of physical abuse. He hasn't been seen with his kids in over 6 years, and his own response to finalizing his 8-year divorce was, "Not that major of a thing." The public sees the jawline, the Oscar, the smile at Cannes, the race car movie. What they don't see is a man whose own children don't want his last name anymore. And that's the gap between Brad Pitt, the movie star, and Brad Pitt, the father. The career survived. The box office survived. The face survived. The family didn't. Could things have been different? What if he'd never met Angelina on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith? What if the plane flight never happened? What if he'd fought harder for his kids instead of fighting harder for the winery? Or is this what happens when you spend 30 years building a public image and forget to build the thing that actually matters? There's a quote Pitt gave to GQ back in 2017, right after the divorce filing. He said, "I was boozing too much. It's just become a problem. I'm really happy it's been half a year now, which is bittersweet." He admitted he'd started therapy. He said he'd quit drinking. But the damage was already done. That's the question. And it's one Brad Pitt hasn't answered. Not publicly. Not to his children. Not in 8 years of court filings. What do you think? Drop it in the comments. And if this story stayed with you, hit subscribe. There are more stories like this, and they deserve to be told.